Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be working on Project Dirtbag again. I'm having some problems with a cheap harness that came with the truck. So we're gonna do what probably should have done in the first place, and I'm gonna take a factory harness and I'm gonna convert it to a standalone harness in the S10. Join me. So I went to the local performance shop, ET Performance, and I got myself a red-blue PCM harness, which is from the 99 to 02 drive-by cable variety, which looks like that. We're gonna take this and strip it down, get it down, all the loom off of it, de-pin all the connectors and everything, and pull everything out. And then I'm gonna take a spare intake manifold that I've got laying over here, and I'm gonna wire everything on that intake manifold, lay everything out, loom it up, and figure out where I'm gonna lay a fuse block. I'm gonna try to sneak the harness into the cab through a hole in the firewall, and we're just gonna make this clean. So let's get to it. So here we go, step by step. Get the injector plugs. This one, if you identify it, you can go to LT1 Swap. They've got all the diagrams there. This one's got pink and a black for the trigger, so a constant hot, and a ground from PCM for a trigger. This one's got pink and then pink with a black stripe. So looking that up, that's injectors 1 and 3. And if you follow it back to this plug, I forget what this is, it's 102 or 3 or 101, whatever that little guy is that we're not going to use. One of those terminals, which feeds a fuse, feeds 2 of the injectors, right? So these are together. These are the individual pins from the PCM. So I just snaked all that out, and then these will be grouped by 2. So I'm going to write on the injector plugs themselves 1, 2, 3, all that stuff, so I know which ones they are. I'm going to plug some injectors in here, or just actually in those holes. Just going to pop an injector in there, and then I can wire, kind of clip that in place and run that out so it gets my spacing right. And then wherever I'm going to have, which I got to make that decision soon, wherever I'm going to have my fuse block and harness and all that, that's the direction it's going to feed. But for now, we're going to start building these rail harnesses. This is pretty simple enough. I got 8 injectors out. I've got 8 injectors plugged in. Made me a little bit of a loom. I'm going to go out this way, I think. I don't know. This is just kind of getting some shape to it. Ran the, what would that be, driver's side back behind the intake. Tied in the triggers and the powers, 2 separate little bundles here. Haven't decided what I'm going to do with these, if I'm going to try to splice these into each other, thickening the wire as I go, or if I'm just going to, probably just going to leave what GM had and call it a day. So yeah, I really can't terminate anymore on this side until I figure out where it's going to go in the truck. I'm hoping to land somewhere in the fuse, or I'm sorry, in the glove box. These would probably all reach just fine, but we'll have to see when we're in the truck. So I'm going to kind of build everything, since most of the sensors are in this area. I'm going to start building off of this, get most of my bundle in here, and then I can have a couple of loose sensor bundles, if you will, hanging out. So I'm just going through each one of these and de-pinning it and weaving it out of there without cutting any wires. I know once I get to the ones up here that are tied into grounds, that's when it gets a little tricky. So I'm going to have to start cutting things, but I'm going to try to not cut as much as possible until I have it laid out and I know where I want it. So I'm going to start plucking plugs out of here and sticking them over that way. Taped it up, reinforced the joint, went around this way, a little bit of X and a little bit like that, just so it kind of gives it some strength. That's what the factory did in some spots, just so for yanking on that it ain't going to pull out. So now we'll go on to the next one. Sometimes I move kind of quick and just forget to film, but the dash is out. Some screws up top here, take the steering column out, 15 millimeters. Remove the lower trim all the way across, and this thing kind of comes out. Just got to disconnect all the connectors and things, and then I got the dash sitting over there. But I was debating on whether I wanted to pull a perfectly good working air conditioning out, but kind of glad I did. because I don't know what safety, you know, I don't know what TSV this is. Well, that's better. Now I got more room in here. It was tricky to get to that little guy and then that little guy. They come in from this side, and kind of figured out why I'm leaking here also. This seam here, this has been building up with water, and also from the cowl side, which if you look up is right up in here. So all of this seam sealer is crap, so I'm gonna have to redo all of that, vacuum this out, so re-seam seal that, and I'm sure on the outside if I take that cowl piece off that whole body seam there is going to be trash. So at least I know where that's coming from, and it's coming all the way across over there, so that's pretty consistent with what I'm seeing. So I'm going to wipe down and clean down some of this stuff. Have a whole lot of wiring here, which I may or may not end up using, but ultimately somewhere in this area is going to give me a spot where I can mount the PCM. I don't know what I'm going to do as far as a pass-through. Eventually I'm going to have to put some sort of a heater in here, but for now, you know, the old heater core spot might be where I stick my wires through. I'll have to look at that and see what happens. I did get some little grommets, dammits if you will, so maybe that'll go somewhere in this area, and then the heater box can do heater box things. Hopefully it's not too big. Yeah, we'll get to that. Anyway, we'll make a pass through in here, mount the PCM, and can put the dash in and start working on wiring. Wiring's going to go in the glove box on the other side. This is pretty much why I hated working on this truck, is because you know, you just couldn't get down to even touching on plugs or just getting to anything on this side of the engine. You couldn't do. You could drop, I got stuff everywhere, so excuse me, but you could drop the inner fender and kind of get to the stuff, but your I mean, your box just was like right there, you know, so you just couldn't get to anything. So I'm gonna unwire this, take all this deliciousness out, and you know, basically just try to get it inside the hole there. So let's get to that. All right, got all this out, got the harness out, and I depinned some of the wires that hooked up to the truck and just kind of left them loose there. They're going to get weaved back or extended and stuffed back in here once I figure out how I'm going to route these wires and hide them up that way. Fun fact about where I live in Missouri, I don't know, for reasons, it likes tornadoes. So tomorrow we're supposed to have some more, and it's going to rain Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, thunderstorms and cats and dogs and tornadoes and hurricanes, and all the bad things are going to happen. So what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to get this crap so that I can get it weatherproof and not blow away. I don't know. So I'm rushing and trying to get this stuff done quick, which is why the garage looks like this, and I got crap just laying everywhere. But the thoughts and plans here are, you know, I stay inside the garage and I can work on the dash and clean up some of that crap and pick which one of these intakes I'm going to use. I don't have the fuel rails to put the TBSS intake on, boo. But, you know, I'm going to put some known good injectors in this little guy and just, you know, get it mocked up with the harness and everything. Now that I know that I need my harness to come like here and go inside instead of over here, I can make those changes before I had it all the way loomed up. And I guess if it's not too bad tornadoing and things, I can always get inside the cab and do the inside things. So trying to plan out the next few days and get as much done as I can. For now, I'm just going to figure out how I'm going to route these wires somewhere up in this region, maybe. I don't know. Basically, this junk's going to go over there. Okay, bye. All right, well, I'm working on where to land everything, PCM and fuse block and whatnot, and I had enough room to stick the PCM up in here, but I don't know why. I would never be able to get to it without dropping the dash. I'd just be able to see it kind of like a prison cell, so not using that. I did, as you can see, take out this center brace for the vents. It goes across between both sides. I'm not going to be using that specific adapter, so if I use something else, maybe I can cut off of that and use it, or something. I'll stash that somewhere. But it gives me more room to operate. Cut this section of the glove box out. I forget what these relays are for. I think one's a fuel pump, but I bypassed that to do my own fuel pump relay things. So I'll see if I need those. If I don't, then I'll delete those. Cut a hole in the back of this glove box and was able to slide the PCM down in there. Drilled a hole through one of the corner bolts through the PCM, and ran a 1/4 20 bolt in there. So, you know, as Dad's saying, it's not going anywhere. There's enough little squish in here that this kind of holds this together, and it's indexed with these ribs right there. So it should, you know, hold everything together nicely. I can install the dash and it'll hang on these little pivot points. Then I can connect to these and then push everything back up in there. I'm gonna try, I think I have some quick disconnects. I'm gonna try to get something along these lines going for the fuse block. I know more connection points means more failures, but I'd like to be able to, you know, keep this dash modular as it sits. That's a pretty neat deal. I can just pull it out. So if I can, I'll utilize on a connector and get my fuse block mounted in here. Okay, well, I did some mock-up. This is the air conditioner controller. Not using that anymore. So I kind of notched out and allowed this fuse block to sit in here. And if I notched it out just right, like I did on the back, you can see that's fully wired. If I notched it out just right, it sits right up against this flush. And then when you, well, 2 hands are a must, but when you push this, screw this down in there, it sandwiches it, so it's, you don't have to worry about it going everywhere. So that's going to live there. I'm going to figure out a way to fish all these wires back to the back side. And then I'll attach this panel and then find a quick disconnect for the back, and then we're ready to set this thing in there and I can start hooking up wires. Well, here we are. We got this mullet of a wiring harness. Got everything taped up there and just chaos in the back. Did a lot of stuff that, you know, it doesn't look like a whole lot here, but off camera I did a lot. I went through and got everything laid out, loomed up on the intake manifold, and then I went through, just because my OCD is giving me fits, and I went through both each individual pin and then ohm checked it to where it's supposed to go in the PCM controller connector. And then I went down the list on LT1 swap of 1 to 80 on both blue and red pin connectors, and made sure, double verified that they go to where they go to. So when I pulled up, you know, R16, it went to whatever R16 said. So I should have verified that everything is going to land where it needs to. These obviously are not in the connectors yet, but that's going to be because I don't want to push the connectors through that little hole in the firewall. So I'm going to go lay this on the truck, where it's going to go, and then figure out where in this little area it's going to go through the grommet, get that all taped and cleaned up, and then this junk will be in the cab, and I can start routing that where it needs to go and start terminating these ends into the little connector. And of course, with being in Missouri, they've promised us EF 2, 3, and 4 tornadoes tonight. So I guess they got delayed in shipping or something. So I'm gonna try to get this harness in here, hopefully before I get Dorothy'd out of here in a tornado, and we'll see what happens. Okay, we got the harness in. It's just laying there. Still got to fish things down the side. Right about where I thought I was gonna line up. That's the grommet off the other eBay harness that I just stuck in there and jammed my wires through. I did that so that I could have just as small of an opening as possible and not have to dig big old connectors through it and everything. Trying to squeeze these guys through the holes, not that great. So that's in place, and I caution you, it's a lot of wires, but it's not going to be that bad. My plate should be here probably tomorrow that blocks this off. I could have made one, but it's easier for me to just throw one in place. Some of my shorter wires I think are just going to be fine right about there. So I'm going to kind of loom everything to that length. I may cut these. I don't want to have a bunch of extra connections, which it looks like I would if I did that. So I might just leave it the extra length in the harness and just tape it up in case I ever decide to change my mind in the future. But that's about where that harness is going to live, and we're going to start probably following the shape of this harness to come into the back of the glove box area. This plugs in, I think, somewhere like that, back of the bottom of the dash, and that little plug right there. So if we follow this harness routing, should put me somewhere in here. Should be where I'd be at. So that's about all we got in today. Radar and forecasters are indicating that the tornadoes are just a couple hours away, so I'm gonna get inside and get everything prepped up and get some coffee and watch the chaos on TV until it gets to us and I can watch it outside. But for now, that's enough truck stuff, and we'll pick it back up tomorrow. All right, so one more time, I went through each and every pin to make sure I had everything in there that was the right color where it needed to go. Just went 1 through 80. And then if I needed to add things, if I missed something, I can add that, which I did. I missed the cooling fan pins, which were under the hood over there, and I haven't extended them yet, so I'm going to drop those connectors in here, little pins in there, leave a wire out with some tape on it so I can get to it when I get to it. But we're going to go ahead and land those, and I can start building the loom. So I got the blue one in, verified it's all in there, made sure that when I put these plugs on, I had all the pins fully seated, and all these little white clips were not sticking out over here, so none of the pins would back out. So the blue one is in there and landed. I'm going to tighten that little guy down and start getting the shape down to the harness, and then we can move on to the red. Got the dash in, got everything on the bottom buttoned up. Still got to push that wiring up a little bit, straighten that out, and then the PCM's got to get mounted back in there. Just had to go through and re-verify for the 84th time that all of my wires are in the correct spot where they go. Fuse block is in here and mounted. And now so we had a number of issues that I was fighting from the beginning. One was the Amazon, Temu, eBay, whatever harness. It just was not set up correctly for what the PCM is and for how I needed things to happen. If you don't know about case grounded or isolated grounded O2 sensors, there's a difference in the wiring. I'm running the square 4-plug that I'm so confused. I forget which one that is, but that needed wiring a certain way. So that means that the tan wires had to be common splice grounded to each other, and then that fed into like Blue 63. The other harness had that fed, I think Blue 63 was the CTS ground. So I had to move the CTS ground from Blue 63 up to, I think it was Blue 41, which was the transmission sensor ground, tie those together, which is how it's supposed to be when your O2 sensors are that way. You know, things. So we got the wiring harness cleaned up, got Dirtbag to run. The next couple steps is going to be kind of exciting. We got some more stuff coming here in the future, so don't forget to hang out and watch the playlist. Anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Action on fire. I just wake up and piss excellence, and I want to go fast.
You're not first, you're last.
Man, I was high when I said that. Did real good. Car ran real good.